Guys, how y'all doing today? It is February the 27th, 2024. And man, today has been one heck of a day. I've had so much going on. I had to go to the endocrinologist this morning. But some good news, I did bring my A1C down a whole point. So, and my endocrinologist was very happy with that. My blood sugar, he pulled my chart out and was showing me. I wear a Dexcom every day. And they just pulled the data right off my Dexcom, and he had the printout and was showing me my blood sugar has been flat. I've done a really good job of keeping my blood sugar under control. I still run into some problems here and there where I'll have days where it's a little high, and I'll have some days where it runs kind of low. But for the most part, I've done a really good job of keeping my blood sugar under control. So that's really good news. And I have my next procedure on my pancreas next week, and I'm hoping that after I get that done, that things really start to level out a little bit. So we'll see how that all turns out. And like I said, whenever I do go in for my procedure, I will be staying in the hospital that night. So I go down on the 4th. I'll be down there on the 4th, and then I have to be at the hospital at 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. I have to have an MRI done that morning, and then my procedure is at like 7:30 or something like that. But I'll film while I'm down there on the 4th. I'll do a video that day, just like I did the last time. I'll film from the hotel room, or maybe I'll walk out. I might actually walk out and film somewhere kind of cool down in Charleston. Where we usually stay is right on the river. I think it's the James River is where, like, the river that, because we're on James Island, but I'm on the James River right there. So I might actually walk down to the James River and film. But then the next day I'll be in the hospital. I'll have my procedure done that morning. And then that afternoon, I'm going to film when I go down there to the hospital. I'll do just like I did last time. I'm going to film myself before my procedure, and I'll film myself afterwards. And then I'll film myself while I'm in the hospital. I'll do a video from there, and then I'll come back on the 7th, and hopefully this time I won't be so bad off because I'm going to stay in the hospital for an extra night. I just want to make sure that I'm there. They get my pain under control. This is a rather painful procedure that they have to do, and if any of you guys have ever had to deal with an ERCP before, they're not fun. They're really painful, especially if they have to dilate your pancreas. When they go in there and dilate your pancreas, I'm telling you, it is. I might just be a little bit more sensitive than some people, but I was talking with a surgeon one day, and he had come in. I had something happen after one of my the first TIPS procedure that I had. I had a buildup of blood in my leg from one of the places they had gone in through my groin. And I was talking with him, and I was just asking him some questions while they were trying to fix it. And I said, what's the one rule that you guys have in surgery? Like the one big rule that you have? And he said, well, we actually have 3 rules. And I said, what's that? And he said, don't touch the pancreas, don't touch the pancreas, and don't touch the pancreas. So if that gives you any sort of idea how sensitive the pancreas can be. He said if they even touch it, it can really bother people. And one of the problems with ERCP is that you run a pretty high risk when you have an ERCP done of them initiating a pancreatitis when you go in there, and they actually make you sign a piece of paper that says that you have been made aware that this procedure can cause pancreatitis to happen. And that's one of the reasons that they're keeping me in there, because I have so many problems. I've got chronic pancreatitis. I've had pancreatitis so many times that could be an issue, and I would rather just stay in there, get my blood work done, make sure everything's a-okay before I come home. I don't want to drive all the way back here. It's a 3-hour drive for me, and then end up finding out that I'm in the middle of pancreatitis and I've got to go back, because there's no hospitals around where I live that could really handle the kind of thing that I need. MUSC in Charleston is really the closest hospital that's that has the doctors, the team, and the expertise to be able to handle what I've got going on. So I'm just gonna stay there overnight. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and hop off of that. I just wanted to touch on that really fast. Today I want to talk about is alcohol a drug? And the answer is absolutely. alcohol absolutely is a drug, and it works just like most drugs do. The one thing about alcohol, and I've talked about this multiple times, the one problem with alcohol, and it goes along with benzodiazepines as well, is that if you stop abruptly on alcohol or benzodiazepines, it can be life-threatening, and that's scary. That's something that you are taking could actually lead to serious implications if you stop abruptly. And like I said, it's just alcohol and benzodiazepines. Now, there might be some other drugs that cause some serious problems or complications if you quit, but like I said, alcohol and benzos can be life-threatening. And what ends up happening is, especially with alcohol, I'm not really sure about benzodiazepines, but with alcohol, the alcohol works on your GABA, and it basically, your GABA, your brain produces the GABA, and that basically controls your anxiety and all that. And if I've got any of this wrong, I apologize, but from my understanding, it basically, your brain produces GABA, which is like your natural anti-anxiolytic drug in your own body. And when you're drinking, of course, alcohol is a depressant, which can bring down your anxiety levels. Well, when you're doing that, when you continually keep drinking over and over again, your body will actually stop producing the GABA. And when your body stops producing the GABA, if you remove the alcohol away, well, your body basically goes into shock, and you're basically in a sense of in a heightened state of anxiety. And your body has to get back to homeostasis, your natural, where your body's naturally producing its own endorphins and GABA and all that kind of stuff. And once they finally get that under control, then you're pretty much in the green light at that point. But when you remove it quickly away, which would tell you right there, that if you stop taking something like that, that's absolutely a drug, if it can cause those kinds of problems and the withdrawals that come along with it. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant and a psychoactive drug. It can impact cognition, emotions, and perception, and definitely all three of those. Have you ever been drinking and you've been like upset about something? Let's say you had a big fight with your spouse, and you use alcohol as a means to kind of relieve the tension of what you're dealing with. I know firsthand from experience that anytime that I would run into those problems and start to drink, my emotions just got even worse. I would turn a molehill into a mountain anytime I was drinking. If there was something going wrong, especially if something like, broke, or, let's say the engine blew up in my car, and I started drinking because I was upset about that. Well, I might have been upset about it before, but man, when I would get to drinking, then I would just get so depressed, and it took so much to pull me out of that hole. And I didn't get out of the hole until the next day, until I sobered up. But the more and more I drank, the deeper and deeper I would go into my emotions, and just being depressed and upset. And just alcohol is just not a good thing to use by any means. You lose interest in everything else when you get dependent on alcohol. Well, I know I did. I had all kinds of interests I was involved in. I've talked about this. I used to love to go kayaking and camping and all that stuff. And I had gotten so bad into my alcoholism that I didn't even care about doing those things anymore, which in the long run made me even more depressed. Because I really did enjoy doing those things, and I started to realize I didn't even care about doing them anymore. Not to mention, I didn't want to have to drive anywhere because I was drinking. I had severe anxiety when I would drink, and I didn't want to drive. And it takes a toll on us. Alcohol shares traits with drugs like Ambien, Xanax, and Valium. And we don't think of it being a drug because of how normalized alcohol is in our society. But it is. It really is a drug. There's so many people out there, and throughout the years I've heard so many people talk about alcohol like it's not a drug, and they would look down upon people that did use drugs, like they were different than them or something. So many people I used to know back in the day that would be like, oh, that guy smokes pot, man, he's such a pothead, what a drug addict. Or that guy over there, he's addicted to taking painkillers. Or this guy over here, man, he smokes meth, or whatever it may be. And they would look down on those people, and think that they were in the A-OK, they were in the clear. I just drink. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but alcohol, I think, in my opinion, is worse than most drugs out there. And for one big reason is that alcohol is so readily available. It's everywhere you look, anywhere you go, alcohol's there. If you want to get your hands on something like, let's say, meth, you have to find it. It's not, you just can't go to a grocery store and walk in there and pick a case of meth up and walk out. You actually have to go out and find somebody that's selling it on the black market. But you can find alcohol anywhere. It's at the grocery store, gas stations, liquor stores, wherever you look. I mean, it's everywhere, and it's so easy to get your hands on. I think that idea that, well, they sell it at the store, it's not a drug, that's so false. Just because it's sold in the store does not make it safe to use. They sell bleach in the store, but if you drank bleach, I promise you, you're not going to end up well from doing so. Just because something is sold in the store does not make it any safer than anything else. And I think there's this idea sometimes, like I was talking about the supplements the other day. There's this idea, well, it's like it's natural, so it's okay. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it is. There's one thing, like, I've had some people talk to me on the channel about, like, kratom, for instance. There's this idea that kratom is a good supplement or a replacement for alcohol, because it's natural. I've known a lot of people that have taken kratom and got highly addicted to the stuff. I would not suggest that you take that stuff at all. And I'm not trying to get off the subject here, but I just brought it up. I definitely would not suggest you take kratom, for the reason being it works on your opioid receptors just like opiates do. It gets into those receptors. It's not a traditional opiate in itself, but it does work on the opiate receptors just like opiates do, and it's just as addictive. And the feeling that you get from kratom is exactly the same, from what I understand. So I would not suggest that anybody take that stuff. I've had some friends that took it and got really addicted to it, and from what I understand, the withdrawals from kratom are horrible. I've talked to quite a few people who moved to kratom to get off of taking opiates or opioids, and they said that the withdrawals were horrible, actually worse than the withdrawals that they had when they removed the opioids or the opiates out of their life. And that's saying something right there. But anyway, back to alcohol being a drug. And I've already talked about the alcohol working on the GABA. We tried to make alcohol legal, back in the day, in the early 1900s, during the Prohibition, and we saw what happened with that. I personally don't know if there's any solution to alcohol as far as that's concerned. The problem is that with anything, you make something illegal, there's going to become a black market for it, and we already saw what happened with that whenever they tried to do Prohibition back in the day. The mob got, they started producing alcohol. There were a lot of people that were, making moonshine and things like that. And, when you're making alcohol at home, people using homemade stills and stuff like that, the alcohol can actually become very poisonous if they don't know what they're doing. You can lose your eyesight. It can take your life if you drink the wrong stuff. But that's what ended up happening. So many people were producing alcohol in their backyards and their bathtubs. And they weren't, there were no safety guidelines under it. They just were doing whatever they want to do. It's like what's going on right now with the fentanyl in America, and it's happening all over the world, really. But with the fentanyl, they're making these fake pills, and there's no guidelines or anything. You got some guy in the garage that's just pressing these pills. They're mixing stuff up, and one of the pills might have just a little bit more of the fentanyl than, and it only takes like, on the fentanyl, it's like 2 grains of sand worth is enough to make you overdose off of. And that's what's happening now. They're taking it, they're mixing it up in a garage or wherever they're doing it, and that one pill might have 1 little extra grain of sand of fentanyl in it, and that's enough to send somebody into an overdose. So I don't know if there's a solution to alcohol as far as that's concerned. I think that the best method right now is bringing awareness to this subject and letting people know, how dangerous alcohol really is. And with knowledge brings power. And I think that's the way to go right now. I don't know what the solution could be for it, but like I said, I think bringing knowledge is the best thing right now for us until we can come up with some kind of solution. In 2022, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, they said that 29.5 million people in the U.S. had AUD, which is alcohol use disorder. That is a lot of people. 141,000 Americans die from the side effects of alcohol every single year. Over half of Americans increased their usage during COVID. Over half of Americans increased their usage during COVID. That is saying a lot. And the thing with COVID is you had all these people that were depressed. They were stuck at their homes. They couldn't go anywhere. I really believe that since COVID happened, this has just ramped up so big that so many people are having problems with alcohol now since the COVID happened. I know myself that my alcohol usage really ramped up during COVID as well. And I had this idea in my head. I think everybody kind of had the idea, like it was kind of like the end of the world. We didn't know what was going to happen day to day. We'd go to the liquor store and stock up, make sure that we had our bottles. Of course you have to have your liquor. You can't live without that. And, we were just stuck in our homes, couldn't go out and do anything, and people were just drinking more and more. And for over half of Americans to increase their alcohol usage, that's really saying something. And that just shows the power of alcohol and how much of an influence it has on our society. So it's definitely a drug, by all means. And in my opinion, it's one of the most dangerous and one of the most addictive drugs that there is. Every day, 385 Americans die from alcohol. 83.1% of them are adults aged 35 or older. 3 million people worldwide die from alcohol every single year. The WHO has determined that 7.1% of the people that end up with alcohol, diseases are men, and 2.2% are female. Online liquor sales rose 262% year over year since COVID. Online liquor sales 262%. That is humongous. Liver disease is the leading killer as far as alcohol related, causing 19.1% of all alcohol related deaths. I mean, that's a lot. Also, not to mention that, with alcohol and drinking, alcohol related crimes, it is insane how many crimes are committed because with alcohol being involved in them. 15% of all robberies are alcohol related. 63% of partner to partner violence, domestic violence, 63% is alcohol related. That is a huge number. 37% of sexual assaults are alcohol related. 45 to 46% of physical assaults are alcohol related. And 40 to 45% of all homicides are alcohol related or have alcohol involved. It's just insane how many of these crimes have alcohol involved in it. And like I was saying, you know, it lowers our inhibitions, and we make rash decisions after we've been drinking like that. How many people are out there in the world right now that are incarcerated, you know, and have lost many, many years? How many children are out there right now who don't have a dad or a mom around anymore, that are locked up in jail because they decided that they wanted to drink really heavily one night, and they did something that, you know, caused them to lose years of their life, and they're in jail now. It's a lot. There's so many broken families because of alcohol. Alcohol causes all kinds of problems. There are so many children in the U.S. right now, or worldwide, who have broken homes because of alcohol. And I guarantee you, these children, they're gonna suffer lifelong because of that. You know, and they have to grow up. They have to, you know, let's say their mom or their dad are big drinkers or alcoholics, and the other spouse decides they've had enough and they leave. And then, you know, you've got this, and a lot of times, and I'm sure you guys know this because you know people like this, or you're one of them that's dealt with this as well, is that when something like that happens, people tend to just continue to go downhill. They get depressed. You know, their marriage is broken. They can't see their children like they want to anymore, and it's because of their drinking, and they just continue to get worse and worse and worse. And the depression keeps going down. They keep drinking more and more, and you know, it doesn't really end up well for a lot of people when that happens. So absolutely, alcohol is a drug, and it destroys a lot of things, not just families but lives. It destroys all kinds of things. Your careers are lost because of alcohol. You know, we always had this idea that like drugs are, you know, hard drugs. Well, you're not a drug addict if you know, unless you take heroin or whatever. And alcohol is the same. You know, it's a different method that you get it into your body, a different method of consumption. You know, you're not using a needle. And I've actually, what's funny about that is when I was younger, I had to attend AA. And one of the guys I was in there with he was an older guy, and I was a kid at the time. I had to go because I'd gotten into some trouble, but one of the older guys that was in there was talking about he used to take tequila and put it in syringes and shoot it up. If that's not being a drug, if somebody's willing to take it and actually inject it into themselves to try to get high off of it because they don't want to waste the time for it to process through the liver, they need that fix that fast, that is definitely a drug for sure. And just like any drugs, you know, alcohol causes blurred vision, dizziness, impaired balance, loss of motor control, nausea, vomiting, slurred speech, lowered inhibitions, intensified emotions, and it can also cause alcohol poisoning as well. There's just so many things that come along with alcohol that just aren't good. But like I said, alcohol is definitely a drug. It is by far a drug. And we have this idea in our society that alcohol isn't. And that's just because of how normalized alcohol is in our society. And that's the whole reason that I'm here and talking about this, because I really want to spread the awareness and let people know that we got to break away from that. You know, there's just got to be, and I'm not saying that, you know, people shouldn't drink or whatever, because a lot of people can have a beer or two or a glass of wine, and there's nothing wrong with those people that can do that. But you know, for a lot of us, we end up with a problem, and there's just really no way for you to really know until it is. You know, I'm of the belief that I have the belief that, you know, we all have the right to choose what we want to do with our bodies, and I don't really necessarily think that you know, we should make a lot of things illegal, you know, and start telling people what they can and cannot do. I just don't believe in that, and that's just my honest opinion. And your opinion might be different, and if that's your opinion, that's fine. I don't want to argue about that. Just my honest opinion is I think that in a free society that we should have the right to choose what we want to do with our own bodies, because we are free human beings. But and when you make something illegal, and it just creates all kinds of problems. But you know, bringing awareness to this and letting people know how dangerous and how addictive that alcohol is, I think is the right step in the right direction. And that's why I want to talk about it. So with that said, at the end of the day, alcohol is absolutely a drug, and a highly addictive and destructive drug at that. And like I said, it's everywhere, and you're never going to get away from it. It's going to be everywhere. It's always going to be in your face. Billboard signs and all kinds of stuff. There's just no way around it. But anyway, guys, that's it for today. I just wanted to talk about you know, the fact that alcohol really is a drug, and it plays on your body and your mind just like any other drugs do. And it can affect you just like any other drug can, and it can be just as destructive or more than any other drug out there. We've got this idea that it's not. We're not, at least most of us don't have that idea. I'm sure a lot of you know that alcohol is a drug, but in our society there's this idea that it's not, but it really is. And we need to tread a little more lightly around it, and you know, really start looking at alcohol in a different light, and especially talking with our kids and the young people these days, and letting them know how dangerous alcohol is. So with that said, guys, hey, if you guys got any ideas for any new videos, I'd love to hear them. I'm open to anything. If you guys have any great ideas for any videos, anything you'd like to see me talk about or anything, throw it in the comments section. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Looking for some new ideas, and whatever it is, I'd love to hear it. I'm not going to tell anybody no or anything like that. You know, if I've done the video previously, I might redo it again. But I'd love to hear what you guys' ideas are. And I'm doing these videos for you all anyway, so I'd love to hear your input, what you'd like to hear. So with that said, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get off of here for today. I hope y'all had a great day today, and until tomorrow's video, I'll see you then. By the way, I did change, I'm sure you noticed, I changed the music in the intro. It's a long story, maybe I'll go into it tomorrow, but I changed music on the intro and the outro. But yeah, I might change it again, I don't know. I just kind of threw that together today, but like I said, it's a long story, I'm not gonna get into it. But anyway, it is changed. I hope you guys like the new intro. And with that said, guys, I'll see y'all tomorrow. Love y'all so much. Bye bye.